First one, what about hate speech? Shouldn't that be censored? You talked about David Irving, the Holocaust denier, and you said his right to speech should be protected. And Richard Dawkins, for example, whenever he goes critical of Islam, his invitations would be rescinded because he became critical of Islam.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you if you criticize Islam, that is branded as Islamophobia, and that speech is no longer welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Hate speech. Okay, so that's a tough one for us today because the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s made it clear that the language you use to describe other people and words that we use to talk about things can be hurtful, right? So, calling an African American the N-word, I'm not going to do it. I won't do it. I won't even say what I won't do. And that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. Like, yes, we all agree that that's a hateful thing. Just don't do it. But that's different from outlawing it. Like the government has a list, and these are the words and phrases that you use that we're going to make illegal. Wow. Okay, that's a whole different thing. That's like what autocratic dictatorships do, like in China and North Korea. So that's the easy argument. The harder argument is what about, take the state out of it, just what we should be doing. Private institutions, YouTube, Google, Twitter, Instagram, and so on, or universities where they issue these speech codes, literally phrases and words you should not use. The University of California system, I'm in California, 3 years ago issued a list of microaggressions. These are the words and phrases that are hurtful to other people. You shouldn't do it. And we're going to be listening and we're going to be monitoring this. Oh boy, you should see this list. I have it printed in the book. It's just crazy. I mean, asking, where are you from? Or if I said to you, you're an Indian man, well, you must be really good in science or something. Well, I kind of mean that as a compliment to you, but that would be considered racist and bigoted. And it gets worse from there. Like if I say, I don't really notice the color of your skin. I'm not judging you. That would be racist because I'm denying my, natural born bigotry that all us white guys have against you people of color. And that, the only absolution is I just must get down on my knees and bow to you and apologize and grovel before you. And then you can absolve me personally of my original sin. It's very much like a religion. It has an original sin. You're all born racist and misogynist and ableist and all the way down the line. So this is where I draw the line fairly early in the game. Like, no, stop that. I understand why, that words can be hurtful, and I try my best not to hurt people by the words I use, of course. But the best counter to these kinds of arguments about race, gender, whatever, is just better arguments. If you say something like, well, I think women are not good at math as men, I'm not going to call you a misogynist bigot and shut you down. I'm going to say, well, what's your basis for that argument? Because people have made that argument. And you should go, well, there was this study. I go, no. Okay, let me tell you the problem with that study. And here's what we know about this and that. And we get to the truth about that. And it's way more complicated than that. And it's not true. You can't just generalize and say all, in your case, Indians are good at math and science and all men are good at math, whatever, better than women. But the only way to find that out is to argue it and go, okay, what's the science say? What's the best studies we have about that? And so I, always just go for that. So even something, hurtful like Holocaust denial, Jews are offended by this. I understand why. But when David Irving says, well, there were no holes on the gas chambers at Auschwitz, therefore they couldn't have poured the Zyklon B through the holes in the roof of the gas chambers, therefore they didn't gas anybody there, therefore they didn't gas anybody anywhere else, therefore there was no Holocaust. He has this whole chain of arguments. Okay, the counter to that is not, David Irving, you are a racist bigot. That's not an argument. That's it's just name calling. Why is he wrong? Okay, well, I wrote a whole book about this, and I have a chapter in Giving the Devil His Due about my interactions with David and why I defend him, even though I debunk him. And I'm quite certain he's wrong and I'm right about these particular issues. But he was arrested when he went to Austria at the airport and put on trial and convicted and jailed for a thought crime. Essentially, he was going there to give a speech to a group of, people interested in the Second World War and the Holocaust and so on. And everybody knew his position by this time. It was flagged in the airport computer system when they scan your passport. They go, oh, it's David Irving. Well, okay, we can't let him in our country. This is insane, and the side effect is that it drives more attention to him. Like, ooh, he must be really onto something if they're so afraid of him. They have to arrest him and put him in jail. I'm going to read more about what this guy has to say. It's like, okay, so it's better to either counter their arguments or just ignore them, right? I can tell you as a public speaker, there's nothing public speakers hate more than an empty auditorium. There's nobody there. No one cares about what you have to say, okay? That's the worst. Better, much better is protesters with people with signs. Oh, you're evil. It's like, aha, so you see these people like Milo Yiannopoulos, they just feed on this fuel to their egos. Like, yes, I'm going to stick it to the libtards and give them what they hate. And so what they would really hate is just if no one showed up, right? So either counter their arguments with better arguments or just ignore them, but don't censor people.